But Fred, is it worth it? Has it paid off?
Yeah. So I have two visions. Number one is to make an impact in the livestock industry. Number two, to make money. Right. So when you say it is worth it, from the impact side, I'll say a big yes. Any farmer I train, any message that I get, anybody I'm able to inspire to contribute to our food security, to me, it's a huge success for me. In terms of the money, you need to be business oriented and strategize yourself. You need to diversify. You need to do different things. If I was doing the local goats, I wouldn't be able to answer that question.
Right.
Because I will have to sell 200 goats to be able to make enough money for myself.
Right.
And that is why strategically, I decided to go into the foreign breeding, which is more valuable, but the same amount of effort for me. So that makes that business make sense to me, right? So farming can work, but just like any business can fail or lose money, the same thing with farming.
Okay.
So are you a businessman? Do you have the right discipline, strategy, money consciousness, managing money well to be able to run a business? If you can't, then farming is the same thing, you will fail. So to me, that second part too is yes, because over time I have been able to diversify, change strategies, and be able to sustain myself. Now in farming in Africa, we have about 44 staff.
Amazing. It's almost a year and few months already since the story of Saanen Farms broke. It was popular. It became a matter of concern. A lot of people from media to industry, stakeholders were there to see what the challenge is and how best they can address it. But hey, guess what? We found ourselves in the new ultra-modern Saanen Farms. And today you'll be amazed at what has happened here, the transformation. It's as if nothing happened. This is the Ghanaian farmer. My name is Enyonam. When you see me in town, remember to call me Ghana's finest farmer. Standing next to me is our ever ambitious man who is revolutionizing the livestock industry. I mean, in the area of goat. I've seen some ships here. And of course, there's a lot to talk about today. Fred, thanks for joining me. How have you been, my brother?
I've been good, working.
I'm happy. What I'm seeing here looks really amazing.
Thank you.
How was it like relocating, or do I say relocating or being pushed out of your old place?
Yeah.
And how to look for another place in about no time?
Yeah.
And setting up what we are saying now?
Yeah. It hasn't been an easy journey, but I think it has been, an opportunity for us to rebuild and really prove to our audience and people that are watching us that we are in this for good, and it will take more than just, traditions to push us out, because the country needs this, Africa needs this, and we are the ones to do it. Yes, just like any business, there are challenges, there are obstacles, but you don't give up. If you give up, you quit, you don't win, and quitters never win. So we're still on, and we are happy that we've come this far.
Great. What sets Saanen Farms apart from the usual local goat farm you walk into?
Yeah. Thousands of things. So Saanen Farm is focused on genetics. So if you look into our livestock industry, you can see that I'm not sure the first person who brought goats or cattle or sheep to Ghana, but you can see that no innovation has happened. When you go to the crop side, we always talk about new seeds, modified seeds that is more suitable for the climate and the soil and so on. And if you come to livestock, there is nothing like that. So Saanen Farm is focused on introducing new genetic, whether it be in pig, whether it be in goat, whether it be in sheep, new genetic, and starting a new breeding program where we can now, for once, not inbreed our goats and cattle and have proper breeds which will yield better results for farmers. So that is what our focus is in Saanen Farms.
Great. Now let's talk about the types of breeds that you have here and what went into the selection of such breeds.
Yeah. So the breeds we have here are all meat breeds across. So at the moment, we only have goat and sheep. We are entering into other livestock in the next few months. But now that we are done with our goat setup, we are now thinking about the next one. So all the goat and sheep we have here are meat breeds.
Okay.
So when you go to the goat industry, there is a meat breed and there is a milk breed.
Exactly.
If you look at our part of the world, which is West Africa and Ghana, we are more towards the meat than the milk.
Exactly.
Even though there is a potential for milk, it's very minimal, but the meat is higher. So the breeds we have here are for meat, and they are the Kalahari, the Boer, the Savannah, the Saanen, right? And then when you come to sheep, we have Meat Master, and then we have the Dopa sheep as well. And these were properly bred in South Africa for meat because of their faster growth. So if I show you a 3-month goat, it's weighing over 27 kg already. Right. A 2 to 3 year goat can go up to about 100 kg. So if you're a farmer, you want that faster growth so that you can sell quickly for consumption.
Great. Okay, now let's talk about the setup. For a farmer who has such a vision, it means that you have to carefully plan, no matter how big or small the land is. Taking me, when Nadia was taking me through, or taking me on a tour, I saw a lot of demarcations.
Yes.
Why it has to be so?
Okay, so we know that goats like to climb.
Exactly.
So first of all, the pen itself is elevated, so they like to climb and go and be up. They spend very little time in the pen. They only go there around 10 p.m. to sleep, and the pen size is about 14 by 26 feet, and you can keep up to 50 goats in there. And because during the night they like to keep themselves warm, so they can all be in there. From the pen you come to the exercise yard. During the mornings and later evenings, they like to spend time outside, getting sunlight, and also not crowded in the pen. Then from there, you come to the pasture, which is also demarcated into, we have about 7 pastures. The reasons behind the demarcation is what in the US is called paddock.
Okay.
So the US definitely has a bigger land. So their paddocks can be maybe 50 acres per paddock. The paddock is to make sure that when your animals are grazing, they are not covering the entire land. They are confined to a specific location. Why is that important? That is important because when your animals are grazing, don't forget, if they are grazing for 30 days, their poo-poo and their wee-wee is there. Over time, that poo-poo and wee-wee will decay and worms will start coming out.
Right.
If they are still in that environment within that same stand, they start taking the worms in, which is going to cause problems.
Exactly.
So our goal is for them to grade for 30 days, and then the moment that poo-poo is decaying, we move them to the next paddock, which is fresh. So we'll do that rotation for 60 days before they can come back to that old paddock.
Right.
By the time they come, all the maggot has turned into flies and move away. That also helps in the regenerative of the grass. It gives it time to rest and regrow back again. So those are the 2 reasons why we do the paddock system here.
Okay. Now, a lot of people, when going into being crop farming or livestock farming, they focus so much on the structure, the pen, spending so much. And at the end of the day, what is left to buy the animal become little. From what I see here, it's made of wood and some teak trees and all that. Why should these be my option? First of all, do we have types of pen? And why do you always go for this? Because I saw the same thing at the old place, and it's the same thing I'm saying here. Why this one?
Yes. So we have 2 types of pen here. And in farming in Africa, we actually have a team that just specialize in setting up farms. So they'll come, do the needs assessment, and design your farm for you. If you're a beginner, you don't have to always start like this, right? Especially, if you're young and you have, capital issues, there is other way, which is called our 1-plot model farm. We actually build that with roofing sheets. Right? And it's very simple. We actually build it around 10,000 cedis, which is less than $1,000 to set it up. And it can actually take about 30 goats in that on 1 plot of land. So we have that model that we share that with the youth if they are interested. We go with this because this is our standard pen. This
Okay.
is like what is proven. In terms of the materials for building this,
Yeah.
in Brekum, we didn't use this kind of wood.
Okay.
We used the thick back
Right.
because we had thick back at our disposal cheaply. We could get a whole track for just 300 cedis, and that could construct maybe 3 pens for us. Here, we don't have access to that raw materials.
Exactly.
And that's why we went in for this. So when you're building, you have to look into your community. What are the resources available for you?
Right.
And what is the goal? The goal is to build a structure to provide warmth. So if you have bamboo, if you have other raw materials that you can use to cover and provide warmth for them at night, that is the solution.
Okay.
So you're not entitled to use this kind of materials, but that's what we had at our disposal here,
Right.
and that's why we use that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, for a startup, now that
Yeah.
you've run me through using or leveraging on the materials available,
Yeah.
how many goats is good for a startup person?
Yeah, so it depends on that startup. Some startup, and one thing though about farmers is when farmers come in and you tell them start small, they don't understand. They're like, we can go to there, I want more. But a startup, I define it in so many ways.
Right.
A startup, you're not just starting up with the animal, you're also starting up with your human resources. Do you have people you've worked with over years that are experienced and are even trustworthy to manage this?
Okay.
If you don't, then your startup in human resources is the most important thing to even consider. Then the animals, if you have the person, then are you sure about the kind of animals you're buying? Or do you want to start with it and see how it goes before you increase it?
Right.
So it's just like any business. You take one step and you check if the floor is strong, then
Right.
you take the
The
other
next.
step so that this can hold you. But if your human resource is not great and your breed is not great and your management system is not great and the supporting system to even help your farm run is not there, then you really need to start small.
Okay.
And that small could go all the way to having about 4 females and 1 male,
Okay.
starting with 5.
Right.
It might not make financial sense to you, but it will teach you a lot that you need to know
Before scaling up.
Exactly. Because the scaling up is the easy part.
Right.
You can, if you have money, you can go and buy 200 goats now.
Okay.
But you can't just go and get 5 people who are professional vet or even farm management to come and manage it for you. That you have to grow over time.
Okay. Now, these goats, since they are exotic,
Yeah.
if I'm to go into this line of livestock farming, what sort of feed is recommended? We have the sementia grass here.
Yes.
But how about if I'm also doing an intensive farming, but I just want to let the usual grass grow for them to feed on? Is that okay for these animals, or I need to go for this?
It is okay. So they are goats. They just have a name, but they're just a different breed, but they're goats. So they will eat whatever a goat eats. The problem with feed is generic. It doesn't matter if it's a Boer goat, a Kalahari, or a local goat. They are eating not just to get full. They are eating to get nutrients.
Okay.
Right? And there are the micronutrients and the macronutrients. So if you look at your macronutrients, you're looking at your carbohydrates, which you can get from corn mostly. So a goat that is just confined and grazing here is going to be very deficient in carbohydrate because the grass alone is not going to give him the enough carbohydrate he needs. Right? Then you look at your protein. Can they find a plant that has enough protein to be able to meet their required protein? Then you go into your microminerals like your phosphorus, your calcium, your potassium, your cobalt, and those come from the soil.
Right.
So if your soil is not fertile and doesn't have those nutrients, your animals are not going to get it. So yes, any goat, any livestock you put in a forage, they will eat. But the question is, have you tested everything there to make sure they are getting what is required? And that's how the supplementation comes in.
Okay.
So now you're left with either getting a salt lick that you can put in your pen that contains all those minerals I've mentioned that they can lick and get, or you get a supplementary feed, which we process here, the pellet feed.
Yeah.
Knowing that, okay, they will go and graze here and get full, but when they come back, I'm going to give them just 5 grams of that to complement whatever they lack when they went grazing.
Okay. I also realized that you have separated pregnant goats, baby goats,
Yes.
the male goats. what's what? Goat is goat. Let them be in one place and play. Why have you separated them from each other? What is the essence of that?
Yes. So goat is a goat, but there are stages in a goat's life.
Okay.
It's just like, you know, they say kids do not play with adults, sort of
Exactly.
thing. So, but most importantly to us is breeding.
Okay.
Why breeding? So we don't cross our goats anytime. We have breeding seasons, and you have breeding season because your market requires you to have certain amount of goats available at a certain time, and therefore you have to breed them at a certain time to meet that market. That's one. There is climatic factors. If you breed your goats at a certain time, you might not have food. It's in the dry season, and therefore you breed them at a certain time. Due to your rain pattern, if you breed them at a certain time, they might be giving birth when it's very, you know, muddy and all that. That has its own issues as well. So because of that, you have to separate the males from the females. So that when you, the farmer, chooses to cross them, now you pick the best male you have, and you know that this male is the one going to cross my
The
breeds.
female.
So then you control the breeding. Then the next important thing is feeding. At every stage of a goat or a livestock life, they require certain nutrients. So their mixes of food is different. So if I'm feeding pregnant goats, the mixture or the formula of feed I give to them is different from the male goats.
Okay.
The kids' formulation is different from a lactating mother goat.
Right.
So in order for me to feed my kids the proper proportion, they need to be separated. If you go into this pen,
Right.
they all have kids, but you can see their kids are upstairs.
Okay.
Because we have a special formulated feed that we've given to them.
Right.
They have to finish that feed before they get access to even their mothers.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So that separation helps you in being able to manage all those things.
Okay.
Yeah.
Talking about the crossing, what time of the year is suitable for the animal's system or immune to be ready for that? Even though the farmer has the choice or the decision to
Yes,
cross anytime,
yes.
but what time do you think is conducive, weather-wise, everything-wise, to do my crossing?
Personally, I prefer animals breeding or kidding, what we call kidding in the dry season, which in Ghana we are looking at October, November, December, January.
Exactly.
Right. So if you look at all the kids there, we sold most of them.
Right.
But they were all born in December, and so on. We did our another breeding again in December. So preferably, I will go with the dry season.
Okay.
Dry season because when the kids are born, they are very fragile.
Okay.
Cold weather doesn't help because in the eastern region it gets cold. Number two, when it's raining, what do you see on the floor? Worms. Because their immune system is weak, they can easily get worms in them and then get bacterial infection. But in the dry season, when it's drier, you prevent all those things. So personally, I do more dry season. But the challenge with the dry season as a farmer is you need to have feed.
Okay.
Because as the goat or cattle, whatever is going through pregnancy, it requires food to be able to grow that baby. So if you're just left to grazing in the forest and everything is dry, then the goat is not going to have enough feed. So you can also run into abortion issues. But if you breed in the rainy season, then they will have enough food, but you need to have a very good maternity ward.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
I see. Poultry guys will tell you that the day-old chicks, when they arrive, evening time is the best to move them from airport to where they are going. Because those animals are foreign to Ghana, when they come from whichever country you're bringing them from, what time of the day is right for me to move them?
It's just like any other living thing. You know, when it's under the sun, it gets drained and weakened. So if you can move your animals, even you human being, you know, if you're under the sun, you know, from morning to evening, of course, you'll get drained. So if you can move them in the evening, it's much, much better.
Okay.
So mostly the flights arrive at night, maybe 10, 9, and then we'll transport them and they'll be here. The most important thing is you're trying to prevent stress. So it's not just the transportation, but where they are coming. They're coming to a new environment. When you bring them, don't chase them, don't try to inject them, don't try to do anything with them. Let them rest and get accustomed to the environment, feel safe. Then after that, you can start working on them. And that's why it's important for you to quarantine them.
Okay.
So the pen you see there, that's where we quarantine any new goat that comes. And they will stay there for about 2 weeks. And the second week is when we start working with them.
Right.
Because now they know the environment, they are okay. They are, they are not stressed.
Yeah.
So not just the transportation, but a lot of practices plays a role in the animal getting stressed.
Very good. Take me through some of the veterinary care, because I saw fair care.
Yeah.
Take me some of the veterinary care that you give to these animals, because once again, they are exotic.
Yes.
You just brought them. You said they should live here for 2 weeks, and then the next week you continue with whatever.
Yeah.
How do you care for them? For them to gradually become used to the system. What are some of the vet cares that you give to these animals?
So yes, there's vet care, which is the medication side. But before medication, like I said, there is also day-to-day activities and stuff. Then there is nutrition. What were they feeding on before they came? And when they arrive, how are you continuing that? How do you even introduce new feed to them? Goats, aside deer, has the fastest metabolism.
Okay.
So if you change a goat feed just by even 10 grams, you see that he'll start running.
Oh, I see.
Yes. If a goat go here, so these goats, they graze for 2 hours.
Right.
If we move them past 2 hours, all of them will start having running stomach.
Oh, I see. So even if they are grazing, you have to time it.
Yes, you have to time it. So there's a lot of things you have to do to be able to manage them. But that's the day-to-day. In terms of veterinary service, goats require vaccinations. So PPR is one of the vaccination, Oviclos P, for Clostridium diseases. There is anthrax as well that we vaccinate. So as a farmer, you need to have your vaccination plan to know when you're vaccinating them, depending on your climate, depending on the kind of viruses you have available. Then number 2, you also need to have your antibiotics to fight bacteria. So there's a lot of bacterial infection that you will need to fight. So you need all your bacterial mazitet plus your mazisulfur. Some of the diarrhea are bacterial infection in the gut, so you need to treat that with antibiotic. So aside antibiotics, then you look at your parasitic medication to fight both the internal and external worms as well. So as a farmer, you need to have these plans in place, and whether you're outsourcing a vet or you have an in-house vet, then he needs to put this together and know when as and when to make all those medications for you.
Great. Talking about if you have an in-house vet or you bring one, I guess Semensia has an in-house vet.
Oh yes, we even have more than that. I mean, our vets we've sent them all the way to South Africa to go study and do the actual practicals to be able to come here, and that's why we're able to do artificial insemination.
Okay, and the medicines or the vaccinations, where do you get them from?
So we get most of our vaccinations, some of the vaccines from Ghana, from the veterinary service. Those that we don't have there, we bring it straight from South Africa because these goats are coming from there. So they know the kind of vaccines. But also certain viruses in South Africa are not here. So you have to decide which and which that you will need here and what is there that you don't need and so on.
These vaccines you inject these guys with, do you apply the same for our local goats you have here?
Oh yes, it's the same virus. When the virus comes, our local goats, they all die.
Okay.
Let me tell you something. I mean, those of you who are goat farmers, maybe comment in the session. Let's hear from you. But I'll tell you, if you bring 10 goats into your farm and you confine them, I can promise you that you will lose at least 60% of them.
Okay.
Yes, our goats out there are dying, but nobody's just keeping track of it. Because we see them walking in the community, we think we have goats. Confine them and you see the amount of issues. Goats are known as the poor man's cow. Nobody care about them. People keep 10, 5, 6 in their house, and if at the end of the day they can sell one, they're even happy. Nobody's really tracking and running them and saying, this mother goat, I've kept it for 3 years. How many of the kids have I been able to sell to make money? And you see that it's probably one in the 3 years.
So they receive the same care just like the exotic ones.
When the virus comes, it doesn't know local and foreign. When COVID came, took everybody.
Of course.
You understand? So that's how viruses work. The locals can be immune to some of the worms that we have. But bacteria infection, viruses, no. Even the worms, there are so many different kinds of worms. Depending on what they're exposed to can kill them.
I was taken to a lab. What has lab got to do with goat farm?
No, that's one of my favorite places to
Right.
be. See, like I said, our mission is really to revolutionize the livestock farming, but we're starting with the genetic. If you don't have the right genetic, you can achieve your goal.
Okay.
If you're doing milk production and you start with a West African dwarf, how much milk are you going to get? I have a goat here that is producing me about 3 liters of milk every day for a goat.
Okay.
Because that goat's genetic is a milk production goat. So we start with the genetic. So the genetics, mostly, as we know, we don't have them in West Africa.
Exactly.
So we have to bring them.
Yeah.
Bringing these genetic can be very expensive. The easiest way for us to be able to spread that genetic is through a technology called artificial insemination. Which means that, so I have a goat here, Spider,
Okay.
who weighs about 110 kg. So if I tap Spider sperm, I'm able to get about 6 million cells.
Right.
I'll be able to store that sperm for over 100 years. Yes, and
100 years?
Yes, and that sperm doesn't go bad. With that, I can tap twice every day.
Right.
So imagine how many cells I'm getting.
Yeah.
So with that, a farmer who doesn't have money to buy Spider's genetic can just buy a straw of sperm, and I can come and cross it with his local goat. The kid of that local goat is definitely going to be bigger than our normal local
Exactly.
goats. Right. So that's the kind of experiment you're running here. On an average, when a West African goat gives birth, the kid weighs 0.3.
Okay.
We did this test, and a West African goat gave birth, and it weighs 3.7.
Does that mean you have a success story already?
Oh, yes, we do.
Are you serious?
We actually-
you have an AI baby
Yeah,
here?
it's called Eve. Yes, we do have an AI baby.
Okay, I'd love to see that.
Yes. And you can compare its age at 3 months to the actual West African dwarf, and you will see the difference. And that's just 50-50.
Okay.
Once that goat grows and we give birth, that kid is even going to be bigger.
Bigger.
And bigger and bigger. So what does that mean? That means that farmers now can rear their goat and sell it faster
Okay.
and also more expensive because it's bigger. The West African goat is averagely about 27
Right.
kg. So if you can get a goat at 40 kg, 50 kg, if you're selling at 2,000, that means you can start selling at 4,000.
Okay.
So farmers will make money. And when people are making money from a business, it attracts more people
Exactly.
into it. So
Exactly.
that's the
Talking
plan.
about attraction,
Yeah.
how has the introduction of this exotic goat farming or this molding system of goat farming, how has it changed the taste and of course investment direction? How is the response? You have been here for many years.
Yeah.
How is the response like?
I mean, it's been mind-blowing. We have been importing these goats for the past 3 years now, and we cannot meet the demand. And that's why we're always calling on other farmers
To join.
To join, because we are still going to South Africa.
Okay.
Like, as I'm talking to you, we have an order of about 100 goats that we need to go and bring. This month alone, we have sold maybe about 16 goats. Kids at 3 months.
Are you serious?
Yeah, per gone. So that's why we don't have enough kids. So
I have to report you to the child support. You are
no, once you win a kid from the mother and is able to feed, it's good to go. And the price is cheaper for,
Right.
for farmers as
Okay.
well. So quickly it will go. So the demand is huge. And my goal is that we're able to build enough farmers, successful farmers,
Right.
to the point that when somebody wants this goat, they can just walk into your farm or come to our farm, we connect them to a farm and they can just buy. Because when we bring this goat from South Africa, number one, yes, a lot of work needs to put in place for them to adapt. Number two, the cost of purchasing it there, the freight, the duties, all of that makes it so expensive.
Okay.
So if we can breed it here, then it saves our economy. You know, we keep the money in
Exactly.
here. We are not selling in dollars, we start selling in cedis and all of those good stuff.
Okay. Now let's talk about the feed. What you
Sure.
give them.
Yeah.
Over here, I'll let you see. We have a lot of, different rows
Yeah.
that we are cultivating the Sementia grass.
Yes.
Is it something that grows all year? And also, I realized that you said they all don't feed in the same pen for multiple times.
Yeah.
They feed here and then you move them.
Yep.
Why is that? And how do I care for my grass to always be green?
Yeah.
to be feeding them?
Yeah. So the reason why we actually chose, there's so many grasses.
Exactly.
And even plants.
Yes.
I mean, alfalfa, there's so many
Yes.
out there. The reason why we chose the sementia grass is because of it drought resistant.
Right.
So if you had come here in the dry season, you see that the whole place is dry, but only this paddock is super green. Right, and that is because of its drought resistance. So it's very good during the dry season, especially in West Africa, for us to still continue to have feed. Obviously, you're not going to have it as fast as in the rainy season, but you still have it growing. Then the other thing is the nutrient.
Right.
So this has up to 18% protein,
Okay.
which is the second among all the grass group, and that's why we choose this. So, and again, we're also able to make hay out of this. But in this grass, they just graze on it. We have another land that we are cultivating for hay production, and that we just cut, bale, and store it as hay.
Okay.
Here is for them to graze.
Right.
So here we give them 3 feed.
Okay.
Early in the morning, we'll give them the palletized feed. The reason why we give them palletized feed, like I said, is because that contains all the nutrients they need as goats. So they are not eating that to get full, but they are eating that because
nutrients.
their body needs that. Then in the afternoon, when the sun comes up, we will open them to go into the grazing field, where they will go and graze for about 2 hours. Then they come back. Then from there, we'll just give them hay. And they will eat hay throughout the night till the next morning. Then the cycle continues.
Okay.
So that's how we feed them.
Right. Human capital. Every success company or business, there's a human factor in there.
Yes.
And I'm sure you're not doing this all by yourself.
Yes.
So for a startup person with about 10 goats who is hoping to expand, what are some of the key people I need? Is it a vet? Is it a farm manager? Who and who do I need? And how many is enough for me as a startup, apart from myself?
Like any business, if you're starting a farm, that means that from today you are an entrepreneur. And you need to embody everything like entrepreneur. You need to understand your business before you even... There's nothing in this farm that I haven't done.
Okay.
And there's nothing that I can do.
Right.
So personally, I treat this just like any business. So you need to understand it first. A vet is a must-have, but I know that most people cannot keep a vet at their farm. So you go into your either agric extension office, or you go into the vet office and you seek for a veterinary that you can work with and call upon. You treat them well, you're kind to them, so that when you call them at any time, they are quick to come. Find the closest one and rely on them. Avoid changing vets, because then that brings a lot of issues. When you have one vet that is keeping track of your medication record and continuing the processes, it's much easier than different person coming and there is no continuity of the process, right? So that's very important. If you're a farmer and you can, get your medication, get your own syringe, get your own equipment, so that they don't bring equipment from outside. We try cutting down costs so many times that they use...
Cut the corners, you folk.
Right.
It's likely he's going to use it on another farm and bring it to your farm. So to avoid any infection, just get your own.
And there is even a syringe type for goats and for cattle. The needs to be different. Cattle are bigger, these are small ones. So if you're doing goats, you need to get all of these things, right? So get a part-time vet or somebody who can consult for you, and then get a farm manager. You want to get a farm manager that can read and write. Very important, because the medications, you need to read them and understand. He needs to be able to learn, because if you're running a business, you want to grow with the people. So he needs to be able to go on YouTube, watch videos like this, pick stuff from there, right? So don't put your investment in the hands of your cousin who didn't go to school because you think he's at home doing nothing.
Right. It's not advisable.
No.
Right.
People go into farm and they fail, but they do all the things wrong that they don't do in their business. You say, oh, my auntie's son is sitting at home doing, come and work at the farm. What does the person know about farming? What impact or knowledge have you given to the person? So these are some petty things, but get a proper farm manager. Go to Pontamale University. They have people that have studied agriculture that are coming out. Get one of them, pay them well, and they'll protect your investment if you want it to grow. Right, so a farm manager, and then as time goes on, you get a farm hand.
Okay.
So here at my farm, we have 3 farm managers.
Okay.
We have one in charge of vets,
Okay.
one in charge of nutrition, and one in charge of management.
Right.
Then we have 2 farmhands.
Okay.
And the farmhands are responsible for just doing the day-to-day cleaning and stuff. And the management person supervises them. So make sure the cleaning is done proper, this is done well. The feed, the nutritionist takes care of all the feed and so on. But if you're not up to that, you start with one, but then you learn together. And over time, you get more farmhands.
There's a concern from our diaspora brothers and sisters who want to invest. But their issue is trust, security, accountability. If someone watches this video and wants to invest in this, how would they keep check? Because someone comes once in a year, or someone might never even come in a year, but is hoping there is transparency in the investment. What do you advise?
Again, I will say this again. It's not different from any other business. If you open a shop, if you're into real estate and you're not here and you have people there, you face the same challenge, because I think our workforce is one of our biggest downfall. And I'm saying this from experience. I mean, I've worked with so many people. I've hired so many people, and I think we need to do something about our workforce. I don't know if it's our education, if it's our culture, if it's the mindset, but it's terrible. So if you're going to do that, then make sure that you first of all look for the best character traits. The honesty, the trust, you make sure that it's coming from a resourceful person. You know, work with them for a while. That's why you need to start small. See if they can actually do this. You know, you start a poultry and you realize that you have to actually sleep there when your day-old chick arrives. Somebody's not comfortable sleeping in a chicken coop, so he will leave you and go.
Exactly.
Somebody says, oh, the smell of goat poop, no, I can't do it.
I can't take it.
The next 2 days is gone. And you have 200 goats sitting there doing that. So you start small and you grow with these people. Obviously, it is bad, but I don't think everybody is bad. So take your time, find the right human capital that can work with you, understands your vision. A lot of advice to our folks out there is sometimes people here do not understand what your vision is. So you might sit in the UK and you're thinking about, oh, let me help my younger brother here in goat farming. He's there thinking, why don't you come take me to UK? He might not tell you that, but you should understand that the fact is he's here thinking, if goat farming is good, why don't you come and do it? And
you want me to be the one to take care of you.
So let's face the fact when we are approaching some of these things and be realistic and make sure that the people that are working with us understand the journey and where we're going so that they will be able to. And that's why we do training here. So we do like daily training, and we also have people who will bring their workers
to come and get trained,
stay here for like 3 months. We've had people from Sierra Leone, Liberia, Nigeria live here and work with us. By doing this, you're able to know if this is really what you want to do or not. And the person is not right person, he will leave from this farm before he even comes to your farm.
What an insightful conversation. If you leave me, I'll do 2 hours. Because I'm just enjoying the conversation. But Fred, is it worth it? Leaving everything abroad? You were being paid monthly, get all the travel allowance, be a boss or a CEO, and let people report to you. You said, no, I want to do goat farming, wearing my Linton boots. Is it worth it? Because like you said, there is someone here just waiting for a brother to say, hey, go to the embassy, pick your visa, and come over. You decided to abandon everything and come and do this. Is it worth it? Has it paid off?
So I have 2 visions. Number 1 is to make an impact in the livestock industry. Number 2, to make money. Right. So when you say it is worth it, from the impact side, I'll say a big yes. Any farmer I train, any message that I get, anybody I'm able to inspire to contribute to our food security, to me, it's a huge success for me. In terms of the money, you need to be business oriented and strategize yourself. You need to diversify. You need to do different things. If I was doing the local goats, I wouldn't be able to answer that question. Because I will have to sell 200 goats to be able to make enough money for myself. And that is why strategically, I decided to go into the foreign breeding, which is more valuable, but the same amount of effort from me. So that makes that business make sense to me, right? So farming can work, but just like any business can fail or lose money, the same thing with farming.
Okay.
So are you a businessman? Do you have the right discipline, strategy, money consciousness, managing money well to be able to run a business? If you can't, then farming is the same thing. You will fail. So to me, that second part too is yes, because over time I have been able to diversify, change strategies, and be able to sustain myself. Now in farming in Africa, we have about 44 staff.
Oh,
yes.
You are doing well, my guy.
Yes. So if it is not doing well, we wouldn't be able to.
Of course, and I'm told you are in Nigeria now.
Yes, we are in Abuja and Lagos, and then in Uganda as well.
Oh, come on now.
Yes.
My guy, come on. That's great. There's a new government. There's a new administration. And our very own John Dumelo, who is also a farmer, is a deputy minister.
Yes.
What would be that call to action message? Me and you, we are doing our part. We are imparting, like you said. The profits is a gradual thing because we are still reinvesting and expanding. But what would be the call to action message to the Ministry of Food and Agriculture to help make it better and bigger, like we are hoping to achieve? Because me and you can't do much. We can only do little. What should they be doing to help the agric industry?
I think agriculture should be an intentional effort. We need to be very intentional about what we're doing. And most of the time, I feel like, some of our politicians are very far off from the reality. So they need to be on the ground and understand why the youth are really not doing this. What are the challenges they are facing, right? You go to every community, there is a land dedicated for school, for hospital, for park. Is there any land in any community that's dedicated for agriculture?
We have funeral center.
Exactly.
A place for funeral.
Right. So we can't sit on TV and say go into farming without really understanding the problems the youth are facing. We can't throw money at them and expect them to be able to just utilize it. There are so many value chain, right? We have accountants that are finishing university, architects. I have 2 architects in farming in Africa.
Wow.
What are they doing? They're designing farms and goat pen. But how many architects graduate and think about going into agriculture, right? So it needs to be a deliberate strategy to get the youths in there, not just to come and even do farming, but to come and support the farming infrastructures, right? And then we now start identifying the problems of land, problem of seed and genetic, then the funding, then the implementation, the services, the capacity building. There's so many things that goes into it. I know the government did, railing for food and job, gave people sheep and goats. Where are they? So it's not enough. We can't just pick one and do it and make noise and gain traction and that's it. It doesn't work. So if we really want to do it, it starts with even the chiefs, making lands available, identify the youth and what kind of role they can play in agriculture, and then getting experts to be able to train and equip them with the right knowledge, with the right seed variety, so that they can get out there. And then there's the inputs aspect to be able to. So there's so much involved, but I'm hopeful and praying that our minister and deputy minister, and I know the president is also a farmer. So I'm excited. I was listening to the Ghana statistics, and it seems like Ghana agriculture grew by 2.7%, but the highest growth was in livestock. Which I'm very excited. So I think there is hope, and we are all looking up to them to be able to, change the narrative and let the youth see it as not just words, but some action, and they are feeling it and they are being guided into what they can do.
What's the future looking like for Saanen Farms? In the next few years, when I come back, Nadia will be, I know. What's the future looking like for Saanen Farms?
I think the future is, again, like I said in the beginning, we are done with the goats now. So now we're moving towards other livestock. So we're going to be doing the pigs. We're going to rebuild our poultry. You know, we had about 10,000 capacity. We're going to be building again. And the goal, one, is to be able to create an environment where, as you're talking about the youth, if a youth want to go into pig farm, where does he go to learn the practical skills? We know that our schools have failed us.
Yeah.
Where does he go to see how to even construct the pen that he's going to use? Where does he go to even understand the difference in genetics and the purpose they all serve?
Right.
And that's what Sementia Farm wants to offer, right? Then I guess our next is to go more into feed, because no matter how good the genetic is, if you don't give it what it needs, you're not going to be able to achieve the potential of that goat or sheep or cattle.
Right.
So I think capacity building, model farms, and nutrition is going to be the future for us.
Great. Climate is a big problem.
Yes.
And I'm told you livestock people, your animals contribute so much.
Yes, we've confined them.
So what are you doing? I mean, climate smart agriculture.
Yeah.
What climate practices are you inculcating in your system?
Definitely. So I mean, our paddock is already, so we are not grazing all the way down.
Right.
And it's even because of the knowledge our people don't have.
Yeah.
Because when you allow your animal to graze all the way down, they pick worms very easily. So, but grazing at a level where the plants can regenerate and you're not destroying the soil is on itself protecting the soil as well. This actually grass also adds nitrogen to the soil. So in Brekum, what I was actually doing is once they finish grazing, I will plant corn.
Okay.
And the corn will do very well,
Right.
right? Before they come back to it again. So that was helping me to sort of rotate my cropping as well. In terms of, I think that is one thing.
Right.
Our farmers need to move away from the random grazing, right? It's time we start doing ranches. It's time we start modernizing and bringing innovation into livestock farming, because the conflict between crops farmers and livestock farmers is just terrible.
Yeah.
It's been around for too long, and we need to have a solution for it. And to me, I believe being able to establish grazing fields along the Volta Lake, all the way from the north to the south, could be a great source of, feed for our goats and cattle and so on and so forth. But I think, the breeds we are bringing and crossing them is helpful, because it's going to also improve the genetics that we have here. But I think that's the bit we can do to make sure that we're protecting the soil that we are feeding on, and not overgrazing it, using their poo as manure as well to fertilize it and so on. And I think we play our bit, and if everybody does, then we'll be able to protect the environment.
Thank you very much, sir.
You're welcome.
Thank you for having me. For me and Fred, if you let us be, we can be talking for 3 days. If the cameraman can withstand that, we'll proceed. My name is Enyonam. This is the Ghanaian farmer. And it's been, so, I don't know, but I'm happy coming back. From the old story to what we are seeing here, it looks really amazing. How would we find farming in Africa for training, for consultation, maybe buying some animals? How do we find you?
So you can find us Farming in Africa on all social media channels, YouTube, TikTok, Facebook. You can reach us on contact at farminginafrica.com. And we're everywhere. We have a website, Farming in Africa as well. If you want to go into livestock farming, then reach out to us. It's better that you learn from our mistake than to go repeat the same mistakes that we have done over the years. So we're looking forward to hearing from you.
Great. So guys, those of you have been calling me, I want to do goat farming. Call Farming in Africa. I don't do goat, so please call him and he will be your best bet to help you become a successful goat farmer or livestock farmer. I've seen some sheep and they're about to introduce piggery and other things, poultry. So keep glued to their channel. Of course, follow them. Call Nadia will pick up your call and talk to you and help you to start your journey. Until then, thank you so much for spending time with me. But anytime you see Fred and you see me, we are doing our best to help change the narrative around agriculture here in Ghana.
Yes.
Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.
Bye.